Доброго дня усім.
Good afternoon, everybody. To all those who watch us online, our current press briefing is devoted to Oleg Sentsov hunger strike. We have Dmitriy, Oleg Sentsov's lawyer, Natalia Kaplan, Oleg Sentsov's sister, Mariana, Betsa, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Maksym, Butkevych, an activist of the Solidarity Committee for Support of Crimean hostages, and Mariana, Tomak, human rights activist. Maria, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleague. Thank you for your interest to the Oleg Sentsov case. He really requires your interest. That's very good that Dmitriy Dinze will join us very soon. He's a lawyer, Oleg Sentsov. Currently, these days, we are having a lot of business meetings at different levels, state levels here in Kyiv. Do we expect that Ukraine will take more proactive stance in Oleg Sentsov case? Oleg has been keeping on with the hunger strike for 8 days now, and recently a new series of detentions was done in Crimean, and Nizarmayev was arrested, and today Mr. Rifat Chubarov, head of Majlis, will make a statement on behalf of Majlis as to this latest oppressions against Crimean Tatar people. With this, I would like to give the floor to Natalia Kaplan, to Oleg Sentsov's sister, who is one of the biggest advocates of her brother.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming here. And this hunger strike, it was a surprise to me. He was trying to prepare his mother for this event, and she got information about it, and this information influenced her health. About Oleg, this is the gesture of despair. And during 4 years, I provided him with information about him and the media, but he now do not believe that he will be released, and he is trying to bring the release of other prisoners closer, and he announced this hunger strike before football championship in order that people know about political prisoners, and later I am going to answer your questions. So we are joined by Dmitriy Dinze. He is a lawyer of Oleg Sentsov, and he is defending him from his detention, and Dmitriy is given the floor. And Dmitriy, he handed over this letter, and due to him we know that Oleg Sentsov is on hunger strike, and he is going to tell us about his last visit and the state of health of Oleg. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the lawyer of Oleg Sentsov, and I would like to tell you the story for the start. The meeting was planned for last week, and this meeting happened on the 14th of May. On Monday, Oleg officially went on hunger strike with only one political requirement concerning political prisoners, Ukrainian political prisoners that are held in Russia, and he didn't name anyone, but he made some calculations. 64 people should be released, and this is the only requirement. He wrote a letter to the head of Belly Medvedev detention facility, and On the 15th of May, we met and in the detention facility, and in the framework of this meeting, I got a declaration from him, and now it is shown on the screen. And he went on a hunger strike for the release of political prisoners and the administration of the colony. Before 15th of May, the administration did all the steps that they wanted to make. First, they isolated him. He is now in a separate cell, in a separate safe place. They call it safe place. And the detainee is held there alone, without any contacts. All external contacts, such as telephone calls, they can be done only if they are allowed by the administration. Oleg said that he got prepared for the hunger strike for 1.5 months, and he rejected food products, and he rejected buying of products. And he also used only food that was provided in prison, and he reduced the amount of this food. And then when he went on hunger strike, so he is desperate, and he doesn't believe that something can be done, and he understands that if people cannot influence on his situation, so he wants to influence by this action on political situation concerning the release of prisoners on both sides. And this is some sort of peacekeeping. So the administration of the detention facility, for them, this is an emergency situation, and they started to convince him not to go on hunger strike, not to do this, and they said that maybe there can be some medical support if his condition deteriorates. Maybe they provide glucose to him if his condition deteriorates and becomes severe. So, being on hunger strike, Oleg is consulted by medical personnel of the detention facility. They have a medical facility there, and the doctor examines him each morning. And 2 days after he started his hunger strike, and the Federal Service of Punishment, they carried out analysis, and they examined his state of health, and his health condition was stable. And I saw him, and he was rather slim and slimmer than when I met him in 2017, and the administration of the detention facility, they see that he has some health condition, and this is about heart, and he has rheumatism of lower extremities, and he was brought to hospital, and he was provided with some medicines and vitamins. So he got prepared to this hunger strike. So many people interested whether this is dry hunger strike or not. He said that he will be on hunger strike until the end. So some changes should be made. And I know Oleg for 4 years, and being his lawyer, I believe that he decided for himself. He decided this on the step, and I proposed to use some legal mechanisms to resolve the problems that he identified in his declaration, to write to the Supreme Court, to write an appeal there, or to send some letters to ministries and departments. Oleg said that he does not believe in Russian justice and in the humanity of Russian justice, and he won't negotiate, and he wants that his conditions, his requirements be met. And in the nearest future, I will try to visit him once again and to get information about his health condition. I have contacts with the administration of the detention facility, and this week I'm going to phone them, and I will. I want to know whether they will provide me with information about him by phone, and then I will go there and I will try to resolve this issue on site. Maybe I will speak with doctors and with administration of the administration. So the matter is whether they will provide this meeting for me with him. So we spoke with Natalia, and this hunger strike, the term of this hunger strike depends on the person, whether the person is ready for this hunger strike. Maybe a person can last for several months. So this term is rather long, but we should understand that in a month, if there will be some irreversible changes and some organs may fail, and understand that the person can become disabled, or there can be irreversible changes that can lead to fatal things. So what he did and what he is doing in the colony, in the detention facility in Yakutia, the conditions were more comfortable, temperature was lower, but the climate, it was rather dry, and he was transferred from Yakutia, and I will tell you that he was brought from Yakutia because some persons who supported him, they started to carry out some actions in Yakutia to support him. And for detention facility, this was an emergency situation, and they brought this information that Maria Luhina, she carried out an action for the benefit of Oleg Sentsov, to support Oleg Sentsov, and they believe that these actions would continue, as it happened in Mordovia with Pussy Riot, one initiative group of activists practically occupied the detention facility where one of the participants of Pussy Riot was held, and I went to that detention facility, and they dealt with the situation, and they carried out moral humiliations and some forceful actions. There were banners, and there were many things happening, and they photographed things, but no one detained them because these activists, they carried out new actions. They made some performances that were interesting, and they were afraid that events will be like this, and they know that Pussy Riot, they can influence any administrator of the colony. That's why they decided to transfer him in more unfavorable conditions, and we remember that these unfavorable conditions they were promised by FSB officers who detained him and beaten him. They tried to rape him. They intimidated him with this, and they promised to sentence him for 20 years that he got. So this was handled in such the situation was carried out in such a way. So the administration is afraid of such protest actions. They're afraid of activists who can come, and that's why I believe they will try to hide Oleg, or they will transfer him if such actions continue. So the climate in Nabetnanga is not good for him. It's not dry, and the temperature -8. It feels like -15, and this temperature can go down to 42 and feels like 60 degrees. It feels like this. So in the detention facility, everything is regulated, and it is impossible to relax like in Yakutia and to do some art as he did there. And he wrote some scenarios for 5 scripts, and the detention facilities they proposed some work to him, but he does not cooperate with the administration of the prison, and he doesn't want any preferences, and he says that he is not different from other prisoners who are detained in this colony. That's why he says you should relate to me as to anyone else. And he is in one more safe place within this colony. There is he doesn't have conflicts with administration and other prisoners. He has a rather good relationship with everyone. As I understand, the detention facility does not have any pretenses to him, so he lives in his own world, and the detention facility lives its own life. The only thing he didn't like recently that there were some marches to go to the canteen and back. Everything is scheduled, and even in this condition, he is able to do some art.
Now you see on your screens the document, which I think proves that there is actual lie on behalf of officials from Russian Federation, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Justice of Russian Federation several times mentioned that Oleg is the citizen of Russian Federation. This document clearly proves that Oleg remains Ukrainian citizen. He never was given Russian passport. He never requested for issuance of Russian passport. He always kept his Ukrainian passport. This document proves that he remains Ukrainian citizen, and Ukrainian Honorary Council requested information from the detention facility from the colony, and they simply opened his case, his file, and found that he he has only Ukrainian passport. He never was given Russian passport, although probably this passport was issued for him, but he never received it. Oleg was suggested to sign several documents, but he rejected to sign any papers, and this document proves that he is absolutely right. They wanted to put his signature into Russian passport, and that's why he does not want to put any signatures. Some time ago, Kolchenko was shown Russian passport without his signature, and he was requested to sign in that passport. Unlike Kolchenko, we never tried to sue Russian Federation in absolutely hopeless case in rejection of Russian citizenship. He vice versa requested for preservation of Ukrainian citizenship. So from Kolchenko's experience, we understood that it was useless to follow this way, and we never tried to do this. That's it. Thank you. Now we have Ms. Mariana Betsa, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. We understand that unfortunately we do not have any consular mechanism to stand for Oleg Sentsov interests, because the Russian Federation keeps saying that he is Ukrainian citizen. My question to Mariana: what was the response from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs after Oleg's announcement of the hunger strike? Dear colleagues, it's so difficult to discuss the hunger strike in presence of the relatives of our prisoners in Russia, and of course Ministry can do not so much. For this, for us, this hunger strike was a decisive and very courageous step, and we understood that probably he does not have any other ways of combat against Russian authorities, which do unlawful actions. From the very beginning of this hunger strike, we requested Ukrainian consular to make an attempt to meet with Oleg once again. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also had sent a note to the Russian authorities. Although I would like to mention once again that during these 4 years of imprisonment, we never received a permit to meet with both Oleg Sentsov and Kolchenko, because Russian authorities keep saying that they are Ukrainian citizens. But during all 4 years, we systemically requested the meetings for our counselors. We sent more than 300 notes to different Russian authorities requesting such permits to meet with our prisoners, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the government of Ukraine, sets liberation and release of all our prisoners in Russia as one of its priorities. We keep with three major priorities. We can try to make pressure upon Russia at diplomatic level, encouraging them to liberate our prisoners and encouraging our partners to make this pressure. The second is that both Sentsov and Kolchenko, as our most outstanding prisoners, should become known to all our partners in Europe. Recently, Minister Crimean called on our European partners at the European event to submit their requests to the Kremlin authorities to release Oleg Sentsov, who is now having a hunger strike. Russia understands the language of sanctions, and we hope that this pressure made from different sources in Europe will force them to take action. We try to make steps, but nevertheless Russia deviates from any attempts to involve them into negotiations, and we hope that Europe will introduce sanctions in line with the short list, which is called Sentsov Kolchenko, which comprises names of all those people who are related to imprisonment and sentencing of them to jail. The third statement is continuous voice of civic activists, which sounds all around Europe, supporting Ukrainian prisoners. Now we understand that there is no need for Ukrainian activists to go to Russia or to go to Crimea. They could be kidnapped from the third country, like Grib from Belarus. So position of our international partners, supported by multiple statements made by President of Ukraine in presence of our international partners, we think hopefully will help. Oleg liberation process continues, but I don't want to discuss this in detail now at this very moment, because I think that this may worsen the situation and deteriorate the process. Nevertheless, we still hope to see Oleg live and healthy, including Oleg Balogh, who is kept in occupied Crimea. We continue our fight for their liberation, and we hope that when all lawful measures, legal measures are exhausted, we will continue to make political pressure. Dear colleagues, we have only 5 minutes. We will take 3 questions before giving the floor to Maksym Butkevych. If you have a special wish to discuss with the lawyer, we can meet at 4:30 at the crossroad between Bankova and Institutska. 3 questions, and then the lawyer will answer. Yevgen Tereshchenko, Dane newspaper. My question: what journalists can do? What journalists can do to support Oleg? What Ukrainian citizens can do to support him? What's your opinion? Yelena Bukhan, TSN. When do you plan to meet Oleg, if you're allowed to do so? One more question. Lena Maksynenko, Novinar. What are the rules of meetings in the prison? Who can meet Oleg? I will start from the first question. I'm not a politician. What Ukrainian citizens can do, I don't know. What ordinary people can do, I don't know. I'm purely legal advisor. If the parties will start negotiations, I will be involved as legal advisor. And I will keep an eye on all the documentation, checking it against its lawfulness. Of course, I can answer as a private person, not as a lawyer. What you can do is, as his friends, of course, you can organize protests against such things. You should demand his liberation, because civic society possess power over many dictators. Sometimes civil society underestimates its capacity to fight. I observed pussy rights struggle for the activists. They are not numerous, but they have a talent to demonstrate, and they violate nothing actually. They simply make pressure, irritate, but staying on the framework of legislation, and they manage to attract a lot of attention to their events. And of course, when we see such actions, we contribute on our side as lawyers, pointing out to all these things. And probably you can sign petitions. You should sit around the table and do a brainstorming session to design a campaign and understand what you personally can do alone or in company with other people. While I'm saying all this, looking at the civil activist movement in Russia, when Oleg had announced his hunger strike, the human rights activists in Russia immediately called me and told that we have no impact upon authorities. We understand that Oleg's demand cannot be implemented. What we can do, we can only write down a letter supporting Oleg, and that's it. That we are very limited in our capacity as Oleg's lawyer. I arrived to Ukraine. I explained the situation to you, saying maybe even more than I should say, but I feel myself personally impressed with all this situation. Now the second question, who can decide? First of all, there is the law. The second is that I should have respect to those people with whom I work. There's a penitentiary institutions, there's a law enforcement agencies, and of course, each trip to Oleg's prison is very expensive. It's far away. That's why I prepare very thoroughly to the meetings with him. I always come prepared with new business points to him, and he has his own business points to me, and that's it. About access. The third question was about access. For me, it was a big news. For me, about hunger strike, I explained to Oleg a request from lawyers in St. Petersburg who offered to join our case, and Oleg rejected from their assistance, and I suggested him to find additional lawyers, but he rejected from other legal assistance. Dear colleagues, unfortunately, we have to leave. If you want to ask Dmitry questions, please approach to Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Maybe Mariana may stay, but we have to leave. I leave you with Maksym Butkevych.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I understand that our main speakers, they presented their speeches, and I can add to what was said. Those who follow the events concerning Oleg and Sashko Kolchenko and other political prisoners, and Dmitry Dinze, one day he is in Kiev, only one day, and we use this opportunity not only to speak with human rights defenders and the media, but also he has meetings with officials, and that's why Dmitry, Natalia, and Maria left us, and I would like to tell several words. And I represent the Committee of Solidarity with the Crimean prisoners, and this initiative came into being after these cases happened, and Oleg went on hunger strike, and our committee made a declaration, and some media outlets, they broadcast this announcement, and you can have this document in this hall. And about the hunger strike of Oleg, it was a surprise for us. And I would like to stress several important things. This hunger strike, this is always the last weapon for a person. It is a very important critical step. And Alexander Kolchenko's letter to Oleg was made public, and from this letter we may see that when they were in Rostov-on-Don on trial, Oleg was against it, but now he changed his opinion, and it shows that this is the step of despair, and that this is the last resort. And this person, he is under control by repressive structures, and he doesn't have any instruments to make these requirements, and he prepared for this hunger strike for 1.5 months, and he set the time, and he got prepared for this period of the football championship period. So this is the instrument, the weapon against Kremlin regime. So this hunger strike is his only weapon, and we understand. And Mariana said that the international pressure should be made on those decision makers in these cases, and the world community at intergovernmental level and civil society. They try to defend Oleg Sentsov and others, and they should reinforce their efforts. And we call on international solidarity in different protests in different countries, and the common slogans to release Ukrainian prisoners of Kremlin. And Oleg Sentsov, he demands the release of everyone, and we should support him in this requirement, whether we agree with this method or not. And third, understanding all the peculiarities of diplomatic processes, we should state that during 4 years we deal with this topic, and many of the participants of this process, especially representatives of civil society and human rights defenders. So people do not understand whether there are active negotiations, whether they are transparent. So we call on Ukrainian power to make this process more transparent. We saw that sometimes there should be more mediation from international community, and we saw in Chigoz's case the important step was the participation of Turkish side. So all the mechanisms should be implemented. If we are speaking about solidarity with Oleg, these actions they are on the initiative of the community with participation of different people. The action of solidarity will start at 9:30 on Butkevych Street at the presidential administration, and now there are negotiations, talks ongoing on social media, and this is not our last action. So we announced the new action, and you can get information about this action. The updated option will be later. So if you have questions to Mariana or to me, you're welcome. Dmitriy Union question to Mariana about the exchange of Sentsov for Vyshensky, maybe not only Sentsov, or maybe some other prisoners of Russian prisons. I won't use the word exchange. I would say the release. All those who are detained here in Ukraine, they are criminals, prisoners, and our citizens there, they are illegally detained or sent to prison illegally. So Elmir Chigoz and Umerov, they were released, and the negotiation process is now ongoing. Staskan Lizlyuk, Ukrainian Week, after Umerov was released, said that Ankara is being viewed as a platform for negotiations, because in Ukraine we do not have such a platform. So there's still we do not have such a platform here, even now. So this is the first, and the second, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs searches international negotiators for release of Ukrainian political prisoners. Is this information correct? For us, the main aim as this is the release of political prisoners. If it is done due to a third party, a third country, we would be glad if it happens. Next. Alena Maksimenko, Novinarnya. I had a question to Natalia, but she left. Maybe you will be able to tell us something. What is the situation concerning the family of Oleg? We know that mother and children are in Crimea, whether they are safe, maybe there is some pressure on them. What do you know about him at this moment? As of today, we do not know about the pressure on his family from the side of occupation authority of Crimea. We do not know about it. And those who use social media, maybe you saw Tatiana Kaplan comment on Facebook, and she stated that we tried, and Committee of Solidarity, we can join this. We tried to help this family to stay away from the process because they cannot influence the situation. But this hunger strike, this is a radical step. And as we saw in the video that was on social media from Crimea Realia, the mother of Oleg, she got information from Natalia about the hunger strike. So the information is brought through relatives and activists and journalists. And as of today, we do not have the information about pressure on them. We hope there won't be such pressure. And of course, they really are concerned about the situation and everything that is connected with Oleg. Do you have other questions? To Mariana, can you comment on today's searches in the occupied territories of Crimea and Stashenko Alexander case? About the first issue, this is the continuation of the practice of Russian Federation, illegal practice concerning repression of Tatar people, and this is hybrid deportation, first searches, illegal arrests, then they are brought illegally to Russian Federation. We can see it as hybrid deportation. Of course, we condemn all these illegal steps. We understand that Russia does everything else to force out Tatars and Ukrainians out of peninsula. And those who disagree with illegal occupation of Crimea and all this information we collect for international courts. You know that Ukraine has a number of cases in international court, and the Ministry of Justice should submit the case to Human Rights Court, and our ministry collects the information for UNO, and there is a dispute about and we collect evidence. And about Stashenko, I do not have update, and you can address this issue separately later. If you don't have further questions, we thank you. So thank you. So this story is ongoing, and I invite everyone to first to address us and to go to our websites and to find us on social media. Now he is in a different regime, and about the correspondence, this was a difficult issue. Now it is really difficult. There are legal issues, and please, I believe that we will meet again concerning the release of the prisoners, and we hope for happy ending of the story. Thank you, and we also hope for this. All our team of UCMC hopes for this. Thank you.